Hi, this is Greg from ASUS, and today we're going to be taking a look at a very special laptop. This is the first ROG gaming laptop with an NVIDIA GTX 10 series GPU. This is the ROG G752VS OC Edition. This particular model comes with an NVIDIA GTX 1070, and it's the OC Edition. So what does that mean? You guessed it, overclocked. So it comes with an overclocked CPU, GPU, and memory straight from the factory. And you can fine-tune those overclock settings using the ROG Gaming Center, just right in Windows. And we'll get to that later, but first, why don't we take a look at some of the features and specs on this thing. The CPU is an Intel Core i7-6820HK. The GPU, like I mentioned before, is an NVIDIA GTX 1070 with 8 gigabytes of GDDR5. There's 64 gigabytes of DDR4 rated at 2400 megahertz. There's a 512 gigabyte NVMe PCIe SSD plus a 1 terabyte 7200 RPM hard drive. The screen is a 17.3 inch full HD G-Sync monitor. It's got 802.11ac Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.0, an 88 watt-hour battery, and Windows 10 Professional. The look is very similar to the previous G752 models with the titanium and plasma copper color scheme. However, the OC Edition adds an additional LED light to the rear, just to emphasize the amount of power contained within. The keyboard is backlit with anti-ghosting and 30-key rollover. There are also 5 dedicated macro keys, a dedicated screen capture key, and a dedicated ROG Gaming Center key to quickly get into your settings. Speaking of adjusting your settings, why don't we enter the ROG Gaming Center now, and I will show you how easy it is to adjust your overclock settings. So this is the ROG Gaming Center, and as you can see, it gives you some system information, game profiles, so you can set up different profiles for different games, some more settings across the bottom, RAM usage, hard drive usage, and then your GPU and CPU settings. Now, this being the OC Edition laptop, you can see that the overclock settings are already in extreme. You can also go down to standard if you're into that sort of thing, but I think if you buy this laptop, you're more of an extreme type of person. And then if you go in here, so let's go ahead and go into manual mode, and you can see you get some more settings down here that are actually adjustable. I'm basically going to take this thing all the way to the max, and we'll just see what happens. Just all 4 cores maxed out, and then the GPU base clock, we will increase that by 100 megahertz, and the memory clock offset, we will increase that by 300 megahertz. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and apply these settings. And this warning message comes up when you change the overclock settings, just to make sure you know what you're doing, and gives you a little warning that this could harm your computer. I feel pretty confident in this system, so I'm just going to go ahead and click yes. All right, so now the system's restarting. As soon as it comes back, I'll start screen capturing again, and we'll run some benchmarks. All right, so now we're back into screen capture mode. Let's go ahead and start up Unigine Valley and see what kind of performance we get. So we'll run this in full screen. G-Sync is enabled. We've got the quality set to Ultra. Anti-aliasing 8x. And let's go ahead and run it. So now we're just using the FPS counter within Unigine Valley, and you can see that it's staying at a consistent 75 FPS. That's due to G-Sync being on. The monitor on here is 75 hertz max. So it's basically maxing it out. You see the graphics right now is running at 1999 megahertz, and the memory is at 4304 megahertz. That's just kind of insane. I imagine as the temperature goes up, it's going to throttle back, but right now I'm pretty amazed at the results. But let's go ahead and turn G-Sync off and see what kind of frame rates we can get. So now I've got it in windowed mode, and it's running at, right now it's over 100 FPS. I think just because we're kind of in a big wide view, let's wait and see what happens when it gets in real close to this stuff. So that's slowing down to about 90. Let's see what the next shot is. Now we're getting about 75, 80 FPS, so that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and bring up CPU-Z. And so right now you can see the CPU is running at 3990 megahertz, so about 3.99 gigahertz. That's pretty darn good. Let's go ahead and check out the memory. Running at 2400 megahertz. I believe the base frequency for this is 2133. All right, I'm going to run one more benchmark, and this is ATTO. This is for the C drive. We'll see how fast the NVMe SSD really is. Looks like our max read speed is 2600 megabytes per second, and the max write speed is 1600 megabytes per second. So that's pretty good, pretty much in line with what you'd expect from this type of SSD. All right, so the benchmarks are good. Why don't we start up a game here and see what kind of FPS we can get. I'm going to start with Doom here. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the advanced settings. We will just change the overall quality to Ultra. That looks pretty good. Video, oops, yes, we want to save that. Video settings, that all looks good. All right. So let's go ahead and continue this game. It looks like we're getting a consistent 75 FPS. I do have G-Sync on. Looks like I'm doing all right. Not bad. As you can see, I'm not very good at this game. All right, so now we're going to try some VR. This is Project Cars. It's probably one of my favorite racing games right now. With VR, it's a really cool game. You know, you can lean over, make sure you're hitting your apexes, or look behind you, see the other cars. And this is just kind of an unofficial test just to make sure that it works, and everything seems to be running smoothly. I wasn't able to figure out how to get a FPS counter on the heads-up display here so I can see it while I'm playing. I'm sure there's a way to do it, and if you guys know, go ahead and put that in the comments. It actually runs surprisingly great on this laptop. I think we'll need to do a full video on this new series of laptops and how it works with VR, but as a proof of concept, it works.